This is the virtual machine we set up. Was it last time? I think so. I don't know. Maybe 2 times ago. We had OpenBSD in there. I thought we had Debian. But we don't. So we were going to kind of go over some, now that you have Linux, here's what you do basics kind of thing. So I'm going to pull up 2 of them side by side. See if I'm on mouse. Looking for the drive on the big screen. Anybody know the hotkey to get control of the window?
From
QEMU.
Can you not just do, oh, I know why. Hit Alt.
Control left control. Alright. So we're going to do 2 terminals side by side. One is going to be the actual server itself, and the other one is going to be the OpenBSD virtual machine. I'm using what's called SSH. Does anybody not know what SSH is?
Can anyone tell us what it stands for? What does SSH stand for?
Secure shell.
Secure shell. What's a shell? Like the command line interface is the shell. So secure shell is what? It's an encrypted channel to the command line interface of a remote bot somewhere. So Chase is now doing an SSH or a secure shell remote connection into the server, which is sitting in the room back there. You were building last week.
Are there still some back there then?
Sorry?
Are there
Oh, we've
some
still got
back
a
there?
lot there,
They're
yeah.
not,
What does that
I thought
happen?
most of them
You
upstairs.
were-
No, we haven't got it working, figured out yet. The networking room,
do white on black or black on white if you can.
or either that or green on black.
I think black on white is the best resolution for the camera. Shut up, you guys.
That would just enlarge the text.
Can't wait.
I can't believe you got that right, because that was a hell of a password.
Yes, it was. I like my passwords. Most people don't.
Do I enlarge the font of it or change it to black and white or something?
Yeah, white background is
There you
best.
go.
All right. So that one's bigger. I don't know if I can do the same.
Yeah, I don't know if you can, you probably can't do this. Front of view,
Yeah.
scale display. Oh,
Zoom. Oh well.
we can see.
The main one's the other one. I don't even remember. Oh, we said we probably. Control Alt. I don't even know how to get in here. All right. So this virtual machine is a pretty pristine Linux Debian install. We installed the virtual machine stuff, but that was about it. This is the host of the virtual machine. This is not one of the virtual machines that are running on it. This is the actual host machine. This is the physical machine that's doing all the rest of this. So one of the most basic things is updating your system. In Debian, different Linuxes might have different ways to update, depending on what Linux distribution you use. Debian and all the distributions based on Debian are going to use what's called apt-get.
Can people name a couple of distributions that are based on Debian? Ubuntu, that's a good example. Another one.
Kali,
Mint.
Mint.
It's based on the front.
Clonezilla.
Is it?
Yeah?
Cool.
Alright. So apt-get update. What update does is it updates the sources of what it can go get. It's just the index of what versions of what software is out there. So just the update command after apt-get is gonna update the index. So I'm gonna hit enter. It wants me to use the password because you have to be the administrator to do this. That's why I put sudo in the front. You remember our talk from last week, about 2 weeks ago? From SU and sudo, the ways to become administrator. So sudo is going to become administrator, and then it's going to run the command apt-get update.
Does everyone remember 2 weeks ago talking about a Debian mirror? What was a mirror or repository? Anyone remember that?
Source for all your software.
Source for all your software. Perfect.
Nice.
Yes.
And you see how they
That's
list?
what that's what
They
this
list
is.
websites. These are all mirrors that they're hitting. And then this is a branch of the software on the mirror. So it's updating everything that's there. So we've updated our indexes. So now we're going to run the exact same command, but instead of update, we're going to do upgrade. And then voila. Oh yeah, there's quite a bit of some good stuff in there.
Just came out today.
So a lot of these are just libraries. It looks like they updated EMU, and that's probably the rest of it. Had a lot to do with
There's
that.
also Apache
Oh yeah, Apache DB.
and Python.
Straight Python. It's also Python stuff.
Python
Oh yeah. Yeah, so this is good updates in there, and all the libraries that go along with them.
app.
So it tells me how many it's going to upgrade, if it installs anything new or removes any. It's going to tell me how big and how much space we
Just
use
before
or
you hit
take.
yes, can anyone tell us what this says, what this is? Iceweasel. What is that?
Browser.
No. What's it based on?
Firefox.
Firefox. If you see Iceweasel, it's the unlicensed version of Firefox. Unbranded, as it were.
Mainly because Firefox's logo is an actual like branded licensed thing, and they don't believe in that. And there's a few other things too, besides just the logo. So I'm gonna hit OK, yes, it's gonna run through the update.
And of course, Iceweasel is the biggest thing.
Wait, so Iceweasel wasn't created? You said that the logo was.
But it is Firefox underneath it.
Is it created by? It's the Debian team.
It's Mozilla. Yeah.
So Mozilla made it for Linux?
It's the Debian team that took the Mozilla project and rebranded it.
You can actually download and install Firefox on. If you look at Ubuntu, you'll find Firefox. But because Debian is so specific and stringent on how the licensing is for the software it installs, it had to create an unbranded version of Firefox.
The nice thing is it uses the same directories to store all your favorites and everything. So if you've been using Firefox, if you just reinstall Iceweasel at the
Everything
top,
just
it just brings everything
Mozilla
back.
did create everything for Linux or
Well, Firefox could be one.
Yeah, it's always been.
yeah, I get that.
It's just open source though. So the Debian
This is
people
pure
took the
But
code.
it's Mozilla. So Mozilla is open source.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's how they did it.
They just took the code.
It's a bit like the
Like-
difference
So it was a
between.
separate group though that did it, right?
Debian.
It wasn't Mozilla that did it.
No, it's based on the same source code. Remember, open source means people can build off of each other. It's a bit like Chrome versus Chromium.
Yeah, I was just confused because he said with the logo mirror, which I didn't care at all. I was making an open source. The
No.
logo was, I mean, if they let
But
me do it.
but if the logo is copyrighted,
Yeah, if they let you do it.
Did everybody that want to use it get one?
I think we've got a generic user.
Cool.
I should
Alright.
already log me out.
So some of this we can follow along the command line. I'm going to open up another terminal.
Now be aware, if you're on our system, you can't run apt-get update.
Right.
upgrade,
You can't do sudo on these computers. You have to actually own the machine.
because I will disable your account.
There was actually a pretty good joke last 2 semesters ago from a member that he's still a WuLUG member, but he can't come to the meetings because he has other obligations. But he used to be really involved in WuLUG. And he posted on WuLUG Facebook page, he said, if you're in the Linux lab and if you need help, just type this command. And the command was like sudo get bin or something. Because if you run sudo on these computers, it sends an email to the administrators, which is Ben and Tom, which Tom already left. So if you type in sudo get bin, it's going to send Ben an email saying somebody typed sudo, they typed get bin.
There's like pseudo.
So
retrieve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Was that funny, Ben?
I thought it was pretty
Did
good.
anybody do it? Did anybody do it?
Yeah, did
Real
anybody-
Rich did it.
Well, besides Rich?
Yeah.
No cold following.
No,
I
no.
They're
didn't
called
do it.
following.
I didn't get the joke back then because I didn't know anything, but but I understood it could have been some lot to do.
All right, so some basic command line get around type stuff. There's a command called CD. It stands for change directory. That's as basic as it gets on the command line. In the DOS world or in the Windows world, dir, right?
Yeah, it's,
EIR?
Do what?
CD is still CD.
Oh, it's still CD.
Yeah, the
Nice.
DIR
DIR
just
is LS.
means-
So it's gonna act the same way. Oh, that's right, dir is. See, that's how long it's been since I've been doing it. At least not that. So CD's change directory. Let's talk about what's on the root. I did CD slash, and then I pushed tab. What does tab do at the command line, regardless what you're typing? Anybody?
Shows you what your next variable could be.
Yep, it's where, depending on what shell you're using, but at the command line, they use tab as a way to try to figure out what's going to come next. It'll autocomplete, so if you start typing a command and you push tab, it's going to look through all the commands it knows and see what matches. And if there's only one left, or if there's a few left, it's either going to list them or it's going to autocomplete what you type.
The list you just do tab.
Yeah, for the list, usually enter tab. Swipe 2 tabs, and it'll list what's available.
Can you try that up there with LS and give it partially, partial name of a couple of directories or files that they have to show them? Just use, see, are you, you're at the top of the road, right?
Yep, on the top of the room.
Yeah, from right there, just do LS and then say, M and then hit
No, not
tab.
K.
Sorry.
We're not.
Ellis and then what?
We'll say M and then hit tab and show how it jumps out and completes it. Or give suggestions if it can't find a match.
Yep. So I'm hitting tab twice,
Show up everything.
and it's showing what's available. Actually, I'm in my home directory.
Try 2 letters instead of 1.
If we go into Etsy, so here, I haven't hit enter yet. I'm sitting at this command that I'm typing, change directory /Etsy/. If I hit tab twice, it tells me there's 145 possibilities. Do I want to list them? So I'm going to say yes. And it lists everything that's in Etsy that could be my options. So let's say the WPA supplicant, whatever that is. I'm going to type in WP and hit tab, and it completed the rest of it for me. That's a really easy way to keep from making typos, is to use tab. For sure, it's important. Let's go back for a minute to the root. So in Linux, the root of the file system is just slash. Whereas in Windows, it might show up as C:// or whatever. So, and Linux is just slash. So these are all the things that are at the root of the file system. Or if you just looked in your C folder in Windows, that would be the equivalent of what we're doing right here. We're just looking at the root of our file system.
What do the colors mean? You got some blue, 2 shades of blue and 1 of green up there.
Handy feature.
Blue are folders.
Yeah.
The light green, I think, is file. I don't know who made this shell.
I thought maybe it had the colors to do with
So,
the way you're authorized, like the levels.
No, it's directories. Blue are directories.
yeah, dark blue is directory, light blue is a file. The green means that it's writable to everyone.
And I think it
Yeah,
also
that's what it's
doesn't it mean executable?
And probably executable as well. It's like everything to everyone is what green generally means.
Where's the light blues?
There's a file.
So they're telling us,
Yeah.
they're telling us what we're looking at and maybe some submission information.
Yeah, they kind of mix it up. And by
If you do ls dash you put
some different shells won't have this coloring as either default or the same even. This is unique to Bash.
yeah, that light blue, what's that signifying? It's a symbolic for software.
More on that later.
Same with the other. All right.
If you have a regular file, it'll probably be in white letters.
So let's talk a little bit, and I'm going to need some of you guys' help on this one. Let's talk a little bit about just how Linux is structured, what these folders are. Home folder is probably the easiest to start with. That's where your home directories are going to go. In Windows 7 and on, or Windows Vista on, they called it the users folder. Before that, it was documents and settings. Well, here in Linux, and this applies to all Unixes and Linuxes that I've ever used, it's /home/.
Except
Possibly /user/home/.
except for Mac. Mac is /users. But it's based on Unix.
Yes, it's true. We kind of talked about var last time when we talked about making partitions and how var was kind of this place where log files go, databases go, things like that. I'm jumping all over. User, USR, it's the user land stuff. Well, let's hear it. USR.
Do you remember what USL really stands for?
I don't actually. I just remember you going around about one day.
Unix System Resources.
Yeah, and then there was split because of hard drive space. That's the whole reason.
A lot of that gets into history.
Ridiculous.
And I know in BSD it's a lot different than in Linux, for sure.
And what's USR/local tag?
It's application specific documents.
Application specific to the machine itself.
Right.
So if you install source code software, you should really install it into USR/local.
That's what I mean by user land. That's where all the user stuff goes, or all the user applications.
The trouble is when you say user, people think that means user files.
No,
And
not
it's
user
not,
land.
it's application.
The issue becomes with Linux especially, they went back to the original style of grouping bin and sbin and user local bin and user local sbin all into one folder, which they couldn't do before because of hard drive space, which is the whole history of why they split it up into 4 different spots in the first place.
Which in modern times doesn't really make sense to split things up that much. I don't think.
Well,
They still
because
stick with it,
yeah,
but.
just historically how you know.
So what else is in user besides local? So user local is where like your applications are gonna go, not system applications, just user. What else is in USR?
Share.
In USR,
Share is a
you
good one.
could go down to a directory called include, and then you find some nice header files on there that you're familiar with.
All right, include.
Like standard IO.h, if you've done C programming, you'll find it in there. Standard IO.h, string.h, all that stuff.
These are all the header files.
Mhm.
Yeah, standard lib,
Loaded
got 8.
C program.
Standard lib.
So now you know what the pound include means at the top of the C program.
So these are the includes that pretty much everything that C uses. I mean, I don't know any program really that doesn't.
You could look inside those header files. I think if you look at header without issue, you might see how null is defined.
Yeah, you should be able to.
It's always interesting to look at. I believe it's defined there.
Oh, autocomplete was confused as
It
it
was readable, but not writable. You might do better if you use VI editor. You might see a lot more of the screen. You use Control W and nano or K-call.
Yeah, Control W will search.
what are we searching for?
Null.
N-U-L-L.
Ooh, well,
Control.
I do.
Control.
There's gonna be a lot of noise in here.
That is a you may have to go down and look for another currency. All the stuff is very cryptic. It's like taking, you find a
Well, as condensed as possible.
stream, you take the water out, you get sand, take the sand out, or you take the water out, you get mud, take the mud out, you get sand, take the sand out, you get closer to hardware level. So that's what the logic of this is. If you have to, just use the grep command for null, using the N option phase, and that'll tell you the lines to look at.
Look for what,
Or
sorry,
null.
what?
Just get out of
Use
there.
grep.
and run it.
Well, I just figured there's probably gonna be a ton of nulls in this file. If we just
It's
look
a
for
good-
null.
Good way to place tabs or had a night if it's raining and you're waiting for the rain to stop. It's good to get around this stuff.
Wait for the rain to stop.
Rainy day reading material right there. All right. No,
Let's get it.
what else is in USSR? Share, that was when Nathan brought
Yeah,
up.
share's a good one.
Share is a good one. A lot of stuff in it.
The man pages.
So by looking at this, what do we see? We see like stuff we've installed, stuff that's there anyway. So what do we think might be in share? Let's go look at GIMP. So what does this look like? Does this look like plugins and things and scripts?
The best example I could give is the program files directory of Linux. It doesn't hold just the binaries though, it holds all the configurations and then extra libraries and
Not system
everything.
configurations.
yeah.
Where would system configurations be done? System wide.
Etsy probably.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, and if you go to man node chase, that's also a good one in share.
That is a good one. Wow.
I had to change some icons for our terminals for everyone's login account.
Yeah.
And the way to do it is to edit some of the files, some of the content files within /share.
So, do we remember what man files are, or what the man command does?
Shows you what a command does.
It's the help file. It's the manual page. So we're under user share man, and then I went into man one, which is one of the many things in there. And this looks like man pages, manual files. So the manual files are actually stored in the user share directory. So that's one of the many functions of user share.
And like that was saying, icons, all your system icons are stored in the share directory. And
And the desktop files.
and then types and stuff. Yeah.
I'm going to disappear, gents and ladies.
See you later.
Have a lovely week. Chase, when you finish, remember to unplug video and turn off.
Cool.
Have fun. See you next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
later.
System games. You could run any of those technically.
I'm back in the root directory now at the very bottom. Is there any? Most everything outside of the USR is going to be system specific stuff, and not outside of home. It's going to be stuff that applies to the Linux system. Any like truly, well, like earlier I said the word userland, and they thought I was talking about actual user, like a user person.
Well, you said user.
Well, 'cause I say USR user, I say user. But like, what do I mean when I say user land? What does that mean? That's all the software that's installed on the system. That's not
Everything
the
that's
base
available
system.
to a user.
That's right. It's all the stuff that's not the OS that is installed on the system for the user to use. That's the user land. It's the application.
It's the user program.
It's the software's playground.
When you go to home, you can
So now we're outside of USR. We're outside of where those things were. A lot of this live build's only there because I installed it from live build. Actually, I don't even see source. Just serve on. Let's look at Etsy. So this is /etc. This is where most of the main system configuration, or anything that ties closely into the main system, is going to be configured. So like some things that may not be necessarily the core system, but are going to be in here, is like the GNOME stuff.
The important things I would say would be MOTD. For your messages of the day, you can update it here. For your whole system, whenever anyone logs in, it will show that message to them. Your RC .d and local stuff, that's all your startup scripts for
All
the
these
system.
RCs, they run in order.
Your FS tab is your mounted file system on
Let's look at
boot.
that.
So if you ever have a problem with a drive that comes up as an error on boot, you can go in here and disable it or add another one. If you want an external hard drive to show up when your computer boots up as a drive that's attached to your system, you enter it in.
This is /e/etsy/fstab. This is what he was talking about. So fstab is the file in Linux and Unix that tells it what to auto mount when it boots up. You can manually mount things, but that's outside of this. If you want it to mount when it boots, it has to be an fstab. So fstab is a tab delimited system. It's kind of broken up right now into two lines of wrap. But what you see is we call it by the UUID. So it's like a device name, basically. And then there's a tab, and then the mount point, and then tab again, the type of file system, and you see our legend up here. So the mount point is /, here's our legend, ext4 is the type. Options, usually like RW, depending on what you want. Error is equal remount -RO. I think that's just saying that if there are errors, mount it as read-only.
Yeah, exactly. At least it says try again with read only. If it fails again, then you're screwed, but it's your root directory, so.
And then dump and pass. I can't remember dump. Pass has to do with what order they come up in.
Yeah, I think dump is for when the process it goes through when it's cleaning the file system out on shutdown or just do a garbage collection.
Okay. And usually they're just zeros under. Every once in a while you come across something where they tell you to put a 1 in there instead of a 0.
I think it used to be more of an issue with IDE stuff, where everything was on the same bus, but with SATA and stuff, it's
I
a
remember
bit less of an issue.
I remember way back in the day I had a bunch of IDE drives in the server and it was causing problems and I had to go and I had to switch my biggest drive to a 1 on the pass.
The other thing is if you
Yeah,
have
fixed it.
a whole bunch of partitions on one drive, it also kind of matters. You don't want them doing everything at once. Try and choose up your drive.
Yeah. Because if I remember right, my problem is that there was actually not physically enough power to bring all the drives up to once. But if I put the passive one over to one, it'll like wait until the others came up and then load it down. Here's the CD-ROM. Dev SRO, /dev/SRO. So /dev at the root file structure. What's in /dev? Devices. So anything in our machine that's a device, we're going to close out of this, we'll come back to it. We're going to go look at devices.
Where are you going? /dev. Etsy dev.
Oh, sorry. It's not in front of me. I can't think right. It's a big blurry screen. So these are like all the devices that are available in the system. Some of these are software devices, not real devices, like random number generators,
Watchdog, all your TTYs.
standard out, standard error, standard in. These are all like core Linux things. So it comes through the console.
It's interesting that standard out, standard error devices, I mean, they come up with a kernel screen. They're available to, every time you open the shell, they're available to your shell, and when you have a process, you run it, it inherits those screens from the shell. And so it's interesting, it's not a TTY kernel, for example, but it's a stream.
It's a device
You
stream.
think there's something else.
I don't know what snapshot is. And there's network stuff. The TTYs, these are terminals. Why are there so many? Anybody?
What's that?
I said, why are there so many TTYs?
Around the room.
Hmm?
Around the room.
There's a lot of stuff that runs in the kernel in the background.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that needs a TTY. And TTY is, this isn't just like us at a terminal. It's not a terminal necessarily in that sense. It's a terminal as in like anything that needs a terminal.
Anything that wants to interface with the kernel, basically.
Yep.
You can show us some of those things, right? I mean, obviously that's it. but
What is CHM?
I don't know.
Is that anything to do with shared memory?
CHM.
I mean, you consider that to be kind of like a file, almost like.
I don't see CHM.
I think it's actually on SHM.
Oh, SHM?
SHM, yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Light blue, so it's.
There's no main page for it.
Oh, you're talking about CHAR.
No, I think he's talking about SHM. I don't know.
It's interesting, that block up there too.
The
This is
block.
where your disks are. Like none show up in here though.
SDA ones.
Oh, yeah, there they are. This is usually how SATA drives show up in Linux. It shows up as SDA, or the next drive would show up as SDB, the next drive would be SDC, so forth. And when you partition them, it adds a number after it. So SDA is the actual device. It's the actual drive. And then when you reference like SDA1 or SDA2, you're talking to the partition on the device SDA. Does that make sense?
It's interesting, FD's over there is a device. It's a file descriptor, I imagine.
What do you stand for floppy drive?
Where does it
What?
point to?
It
Do an
would stand
LSHLA.
for floppy drive.
F. I think it might be floppy drive, but it's pointed to something else, so that may help us. It's assembling.
I bet you're right. Never think about it.
F.
Also, it lists the CPU, which is interesting.
Am I in the right place? Not.
No, you still S.
What was the flag?
You're gonna do this.
I don't remember what it does. Is that all?
Yeah. I think.
It shows all. It shows hidden. It shows pseudolinks.
Yes.
It shows all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your hidden stuff won't show up. Your dot files and things.
Sorry, I can't put that anymore.
FD is proc self FD. Who knows?
Huh. Okay. Enough of that. I don't like this keyboard.
Obviously.
Okay. So down here. Why are you not highlight? Alright. Down here is our CD-ROM, the SR/DEV/SR0. We're mounting it at the mount point, media/CD-ROM 0. It's UDF, and it has an ISO standard for the CDs or DVDs that it could read. Options user / common no auto. And then no dump and no pass. Swap up here. You notice that under pass and dump it has special perimeters. It says swap and it says SW.
No, that's the type.
Oh, sorry, I got tabbed off.
That's type and option.
Yeah, it is type options. So options, SW. When you mount swap, or when you have a swap partition, as your option, you pass it the SW to tell it that it's swap. And then also type it, you tell that. It's really confusing. What else?
Mike, you might go over creating a user that has the ability to run sudo as long as they know the command, or excuse me, as long as they know or with their password so that they're just a standard user, but they can use
Studio. Other important things in Etsy though, host name is really important for building your own system.
And Etsy hosts.
Yeah, host is good too.
This is your host file. They have this in Windows as well. And it's under Etsy. And I imagine it looks about like a Windows host file.
That's pretty close.
It's just the IP address and then the host name.
If you wanted to set up your own static DNS entry, this is where you put it. So if you have a server at home, you want to name it, my server, you could put my server in there and then put the address there, and it would just, if you just put ping my server without putting an IP address, it would know to just route to that.
Yes, and usually this will override actual DNS.
Should.
Unless you tell it otherwise. So.
But this file is actually why localhost works. That's why you can, ping localhost and it goes to 127.0.1.
Cron. Let's look at cron.
Cron, so the password file is good too.
So there's this thing called cron, and when I autocomplete, there's several folders. It's cron.d, cron.daily, cron.hourly, cron.monthly, cron.weekly. Just by those names, what do you guys think cron might do?
Sounds like chronological.
Cron is how you schedule tasks in Linux and Unix. It's a program.
Is it the equivalent of task scheduling?
It is the equivalent of task schedule, yeah, and much better. So when you put things in as a cron job, If it's complicated, then what you might do is write your own script and then call that script from a cron job. If it's simple, you can just run whatever commands you want from the cron job. So there's some already in there. Let's look at like cron.
You're gonna have scripts inside there. There you go. Look at apt. Just enter. There you go. Set up a bunch of variables.
Yeah. That's not a good example of cron job.
They're all gonna be like this though, because they're gonna be system ones.
Yeah.
Unless you made one that you have an example of. Basically, let's say you wanted apt-get to do an update, or at least download all your updates and maybe not install them. You could set up a cron job on your own with a script to just download all of them and just put them in a holding area every day or hour. It's kind of up to you, I guess. It's your cron job.
It's not like a.
They're all gonna be complicated.
It's not like a simple cron file for you like the BSDs have.
Probably not for the system. You check log rotate maybe. I don't know. In theory, you could write a script that turns your volume up all the way to a certain time and plays a music file. Say 6 o'clock in the morning.
That's cool.
It would be your own alarm clock.
Where's the actual like song schedule?
Just under cron P.
It wasn't though. That's what I was looking for.
Oh, yeah, it is. All right. This is what. Okay, so this is kind of what a cron file looks like. This is where you would put your command that's going to either call your script or it's going to run whatever it is you're trying to run. And you can look online to really get the details of cron. I always have to look it up every time.
You
Make sure I get it right.
You can check your man page too.
But essentially, the scheduling part happens up front, and then the user, and then the command to run, like so. So the scheduling part up front, the 30 space 7 tab star star star. Let's go look at the man page. I think it's talking about the actual server.
You know where to check the man cron. That's actually the file you're working with.
Cron tab.
There you go.
Here we go. This is a good prompt file. Okay, we actually have a label for us too. Month, what's this, not month, that's minute, hour, day of month. What was MON? Day of week, I can't remember MON. Yeah, just month straight, I guess. Yeah. User and then the command. So they're saying the 17th minute of every hour of every day of the month, of every day of the week, as this user run this command. And that's how a cron file works. In each of these lines, these 4 lines here, the bottom four, are all different commands that are gonna run at different times. So star means everything. If you put something like 17, it's gonna run it at exactly 17 minutes on every iteration of every possible other combination of the stars. Here, this one runs 52.6. So at the 52nd minute in the 6th hour of the first day of the month, for every month and every day of the week, it's gonna run this command. So that's telling us that at 6:52 in the morning, on the first day of every month, it's gonna run at 6:52 in the morning.
It's too early for me.
There are ways to say like every 5 minutes and things like that with a slash. If I replace like this 17 with a /5, it's gonna run every 5 minutes forever. Which, you know, people are tempted to do that in cron jobs with certain things, because maybe there's something you want to check every 5 minutes. The problem is, when there's an error and it sends you an email and you forget about it, and then you come back and you got an email every 5 minutes for the last week, and you didn't realize it, that kind of sucks. So you got to be careful when you make cron jobs.
You before Chase?
Yeah. Yeah, except mine was actually less than 5 minutes. It was like an every minute thing. And then it just spams you until you figure it out. So that's what cron files look like.
You know what's funny is you would think that task scheduler would be easier just because of GUI. That's actually more simple than task scheduler. 'Cause
It's
we
very
use it-
powerful,
we
too.
use it at work all the time, yeah.
And there's other, like, if you read the man page for Croncat, there's other more advanced ways.
Yeah. And there are graphical interfaces to it too, if you need the help of it, so.
So that was pretty straightforward.
It's not bad, it really isn't. And every distribution does a little different too.
Each user can have a cron file as well. It doesn't have to be, we looked at the system one, but every individual user, if they put it in their own directory, can run a cron as well.
Okay.
So you can schedule your own personal tasks.
You can't elevate it to root though.
What do you do? Just put .cron tab in your home folder? I think that's all it
It
is.
says in the main page.
What else do we want to know about Linux?
I have a question. When you're going through the FC, the files from the FC directory, there's some files that Nathan said were run at the startup, where they
RC?
RC.D.
So, just a question: if you were to create like, it went to 6. If you created like RC7, would it run that?
So those numbers have a specific meaning in the system at what level they run at.
Those are, you can add more, but you have to change the system boot up to do that.
How much bit?
So would that be the way you would run a script up through that, or is there a different way to do that?
Let's go look at RC0.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a folder.
Yeah, it is, because that's where you put your scripts in.
That's right. So these are all startup scripts.
You got GDM in there, that's your login manager. Cups get started, Bluetooth gets started.
So this is the readme that was in RC0.
There you go.
And it straight up tells you.
Yeah.
When entering run level 0, what's run level 0? What are run levels?
Run level would be covered. There's the run level. Yeah, there is. It's a command.
I just,
Yes, it's prints it.
have you ever tried for run level?
No, it's a system state basically. You hit a run level for each state the machine enters. So on initial boot up, that's where run level 0 comes in before user logs in, all that stuff.
was kind of like building on each other. So
Yeah.
Well,
it's like the whole top
And the
level.
RC run levels, each time it hits a run level, these scripts get started. So that's, if you put it in RC.0, or RC0 folder, when it hits run level 0, these get run. When it hits run level 1, the next set of scripts gets run. Each time the system enters this run level, these scripts are all symbolic links, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so basically every time it hits a run level in the system, so if you know what run level you're looking for, and there may be some specific need to use any specific run level, you could put your own script in there. Let's see what's in 1.
That was one. One basically said we're gonna stop everything for single user mode. But we're all system D up in here. Most of them are empty.
No, David doesn't use system D yet. They're still using it.
You can if you want.
Yeah.
No, Debian does too. Jesse doesn't. But Scripts
No,
does.
because you still use services to start services, don't you?
I don't know. I haven't started services. Well, yeah. Well, no. I don't know.
System uses system CTO.
I've only been using Stretch for a few days.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they changed it.
Blah 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 blah. Oh, 6 the highest.
Basically, because you have all these RCs in here, it tells me you're using it still. System D doesn't use RC stuff. That's a whole different thing.
Zero and 6 are for shutdown.
There you go.
Or single user mode is S, I guess. I was hoping it would kind of tell us more about what happened at each level. 'Cause it doesn't. This does, but it's way more technical than we're going to talk about.
Most things are kind of switching over to system D like we were talking about, and they don't use run levels or this kind of stuff anymore. It's gone to a different system. Because to be honest, the init and run level system is overly complicated. It's not easy to figure out.
Anyway,
I'm trying to think, like, what's that whole run level system made when computers were quite a bit less powerful than computers were at all, or is it?
It was
is it-
just
I think it's
at
for
the time.
efficiency or what?
At the time, that's what they designed. You know, and then they figured out different methodologies and different ways of doing the system startup, ways to initialize hardware and scripts on the fly, basically.
host.deny, that's a good one.
To be used though. No.
So this is a file where you can deny things by their host name. If you don't want, if you want like an actual manual blacklist by host name on this machine, this is where you put it in it.
for a server that's open to the public, there's an application program called Host Deny, or Deny Host, that's what it is, it's called Deny Host, and it automatically watches for invalid logins, and if this spammer gets too many, it automatically throws their IP into the Host Deny list and stops them from getting access.
Yep.
It's a super handy tool. Keeps you away from those China bots.
Paranoid. Password.
Yeah, look at that, it's a password file, that's good.
Is the file named /etsy/PASSWD. So Etsy password. This is what contains all the users, information about them. It does not contain their password. It has their UUI or their UID and their group ID. Kind of deceiving name.
You can't say that's your user anyways, the real shadow file.
Right. So the real encrypted information is in memory. It's not, or it's available to the system. It's not available to us. As well, it shouldn't be. So this is where the information is. This is this file is hashed into a database, which we can see. This one right here. That's the actual wrapped database file that generated off of it. The shadow file.
Yeah, it won't let you.
No, I think I typed it.
You're a normal user, it won't let you read it, dude.
Oh, I'm surprised it didn't give me an error. That's what I was hoping for.
It
Really.
did.
Oh, it did. I didn't see the error. I just thought it was blank. Okay, so the shadow file /Etsy/shadow. This is the actual password file. It's like active, and that's why it's giving me the error saying you can't read this. It's generated from password.
Yeah, it's all encrypted anyways. You have to use the actual shadow command to manipulate it and change things out. And that's a pretty cryptic command too, anyways. So. Basically saying your passwords are safe unless you give them to somebody.
rsync. Let's talk about rsync. I'm just jumping all over the place. Wow.
Maybe CP or move before rsync. Or local commands.
Okay, so CP is just a copy command. Copy one file from another to another. And it only takes 2 arguments, the source and the destination. Is it CP in DOS or on Windows?
Copy. People. Yeah, I think it's
Or
copy.
Word copy? Okay.
And there used to be X copy back in the day for larger files, other fancy things.
Actually, X copy rocks.
It was a little better.
It was way better. Remove command is how you remove things.
You can use RM as well, but it doesn't auto invoke this specific things for like symlinks or folders versus files. But remove will automatically figure that out for you.
MKDIR is how you make a directory. So I'm gonna go to my home folder here, to my documents, and then I can mkdir test, and then you see how it listed test as being in it. So I made a directory named test.
Likewise, if you just want to make a file on your system, a blank file, like a blank folder, you use the touch command. So you do test.txt or CPP or any file you want to make.
So now I did the touch test.file or tst.file, and now it's there as a file. Just an empty file. Nano is a text editor.
Yeah, it's also
Uh, So I open a Nano and it's blank. There's nothing there. I type whatever one in it. I can save it. File's still there. I open it back up again. And all my stuff's still there. rsync is a very robust copying program. What it does, it can work locally and it can work over networks using lots of different methods. You can actually run an rsync server and connect to it through the rsync protocol, or you can do it through SSH, through FTP, through I think there's a few other like plugins that you can do like that.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
And it has a ton of options. Let's just look at the man page, for example.
Do it. It's a read.
So it follows the basic format, rsync, source destination. So that's deceivingly simple. You see in some of the more advanced ones over here, this rsync : / is telling it to use the rsync protocol, which means it has to be an actual rsync server. You can use SSH. I think it'll use SSH by default if you use like user at host : / where the file is. So you can copy things over the network. Let's look down and look at some options here. One important thing about rsync is it has the ability to keep track of differentials. So if you're copying something, it has the ability, like if you're archiving, that it can look at where it's moving to and where the source is. And it can see what's already been copied and make sure it's the same and not copy that, and then only copy the difference. Also for larger files, if you use the proper flags, it can actually keep track of within the file. If you partially, like let's say I'm moving a 4 gig DVD and it crashes halfway through or the power goes out or something. If I use the command properly, it can remember where I was at within that 4 gig file and pick up where I left off and keep going, which is important. And it has a ton of options. Ton. That was a little awesome. Ready to drop the options yet? Haven't.
Are they going to cover it? There we go.
All right. Some of the important ones here, verbose just gives you more info. Quiet means it's going to suppress stuff. Checksum, the -C, will actually run a checksum on the files to verify that it is the exact same file, like with integrity. I've never had a problem in the times I didn't use checksum, but for everything important, I always use checksum. So.
-A is your friend.
-A is your friend. We'll get there.
You can see what it does.
Oh, I see it. Archive.
Yeah.
-A archive
Equals RLPTQ.
archive mode equals -RLPTQOD. So this is recursive, so it's going to go through it's not just going to copy the top directory, it's going to go through every folder and copy everything inside of it. L is going to copy links. P, I think, is partial or something like that. P is permissions. It preserves the permissions. T,
Timestamps, I think.
yeah, it is timestamps. G,
Group permissions as well.
D.
Yeah. Preserves
Yeah,
your
group permissions. D is gonna preserve device information. What was the preserves the owner. So A kind of stands for archive. It's just like archive mode. If you run A, It's going to copy all the files, and it's going to preserve
Who owns it?
access times. It's going to preserve ownership, permissions, all that stuff, which is why it's really useful for archives. A lot of times when you copy files, almost every other way that I can think of, unless you like fix it when you're done, it's going to rewrite the permissions as the owner is the person that copied it, not what it was before it started. Has anybody ever run into the problem like that, where you copy something and you change the owner because you copied it and then it didn't work right? That can be a hard problem to fix, depending on what you copy.
Yeah,
If that was,
I have a file in my class account, students downloaded it, it's their name at the current time they downloaded it. Or if you move it for somebody that's not directly your own, then you basically,
It also overwrites the timestamp on it, so you don't technically know when that file was actually created. You just know when it was moved last, which isn't
You
important
what?
sometimes.
I won't get into move, that's a whole other issue, but it's interesting though.
so to preserve all that information, that's where the -A comes in handy. Like I said, for archives, that's really important. If you're copying somebody's data and you plan on copying it back later and it's still working, that's usually important.
I think ABZ. I would add B to it.
I never use B.
I like to see it at least.
What
B
does
is
B do?
verbose.
Oh, V.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use B too, sorry. I thought you said B. I was looking at B here, backup, but I'm not really sure what that is or how to use it.
Oh, I don't know either.
It probably puts your files in a certain structure that, I don't know. I do backups with it, but I never use the backup flag.
And then Z at times as well. Z is a good one to save some time and bandwidth, basically.
Oh, is it compression?
Yeah.
Yeah, Z is compression.
So if you're sending it over the network, instead of sending just raw binary data of the file, it'll actually compress it on the fly and then decompress it at the other end. So it'll save a little bandwidth.
I always use,
If you're just doing local though, Z is totally useless.
I always use
Waste time.
H for human readable, because what that's gonna do is when it presents you with statistics of what's going on, like transfer rate and how much data has been moved, instead of just spitting out some weird number, it's actually gonna like give it to you in gigabytes or megabytes or megabits per second or something useful to a human. So I always throw -H, and then I always do this capital P. Capital P says it's the same as partial and the same as and progress. So progress is right here. It shows the progress during the transfer, which supplements the -V. And then partial is where it actually remembers partial files. So I always use that because I want to be able to pick up where I left off if something happens. It's fully IP6 capable if you use IP6. There's also things built in. I haven't played with them much, but I'd like to play with it more, to where rsync can use like multicast and anycast type stuff. So that means if you have one source and you're copying it to multiple places all at once, you can do it in one operation. You don't have to send a separate file to every machine. You send one network stream and it goes to multiple machines at once. So that can be very useful, especially if you're distributing video.
What was that about? What makes it do that? Is it
Multicast. A lot of these are like, if you set up rsync so that you're going to copy information, like let's say we got two repositories and I want them to match. If it finds a difference, let's say I want to update the newest and delete older stuff, right? So all that different ways of deleting and different parts of the process to delete at, they're all right here. Different ways to use delete. -N is important. It's a dry run. So -N, whenever I'm building my rsync commands, I always have a -N in there. And it's not going to actually copy the files. It's just going to put the output out of what would happen if it copied the files based on the command I wrote. So I use that until I get the command I want and I know it's doing what I want, and then I'll remove the N, and then it'll actually do the real copy. It won't just be a practice or a trial. That's most of the useful stuff. If you use ACLs, the dash capital A is important. If you do anything in like Samba or anything with Windows, particularly Windows machines that are on a domain, and you're going to copy files using rsync, it's important that you get the dash capital A, because all modern like Windows that's connected to your domain handles permissions using ACLs. So you definitely want to preserve those for Windows files. It's pretty much most of it. Oh, the update, the -U, and then all the different things that apply that are similar to it after it are different ways of, if newer than update kind of commands. Different ways of updating if you find files that are on this one but not this one, and you want to update them in place as opposed to deleting. So you can see the power of rsync. You can download rsync for Windows too. It's cross-platform. It's a really powerful command. It does a lot of cool stuff. Amazing for backups.
It's a little after 8.
Okay, we're done. 8 o'clock. I got a program ready.
So, yeah, next meeting Thursday, and it sounds like we're talking about file system permissions and user permissions next. So
Yes, we still gotta hash that out.
Well, not tomorrow. Yeah, it's not tomorrow. There's 1 week.